Do you ever wish your day wasn't dictated by your health? Are you tired of being tired all the time, or is pain holding you back from enjoying your time with your family? Would you like to manage your symptoms holistically, but you just don't know where to begin? I am so excited that you're here. This podcast will help you understand how natural remedies work so you can relieve your symptoms and live a fuller life. My name is Penny. I'm an occupational therapist, past pharmaceutical rep, a mom, and a wife with a strong faith, and for 25 years, I battled through debilitating Crohn's disease. I took all the medicine and did all the surgeries that stole so much time with my family, but never truly healed me. I finally realized if I was going to survive this disease, I needed to open my stubborn eyes to alternative solutions. I researched how perfectly our bodies work with plants and a lifestyle that made my health less of a burden to my family and aligned so beautifully with my faith and my medical training. If you are ready to reclaim your life with holistic options that are easy to implement as a busy mom and provide relief that lasts, this is the podcast for you. Hello there, Becoming Natural fans. This is Penny Sampler, your host, and this is episode number 32. Incredible castor oil health benefits you'll want that are proven and affordable. I'm so excited about this episode. I have been waiting forever for this episode because I talk about castor oil up there with CBD and silver. I think those are probably my three go-tos. But I first want to say two things. Number one, I started a Facebook community group. It is facebook.com/groups/becoming natural. It's called Becoming Natural Community Group. Not a very creative title, but I continue to get some of the most wonderful emails from listeners, and I wanted to create a community where we can ask each other questions and members can answer questions, and it's private. So you have to ask to join, because a lot of people don't like to ask personal questions in a public forum. And while I do have a Becoming Natural public page, this is the private group, and I would love it so much if you would come up and join us over there. And it's small. I just started it, so I had used it previously. I think there's like 4 people in it right now. So please come join this group and feel free to introduce yourself and ask questions and share things that you've learned or that you know. That's exactly what I want to use it for, is for it to be a community, so this is not a one-sided conversation all the time. Today's review is 5 stars. I am loving this new podcast. Hooray for the discussion on holistic health options while weaving in your faith journey. It's absolute gold. What a wealth of knowledge you have and communicate it so well. I look forward to listening to more episodes. Congrats. Thank you so much. That is from Lori 2024. Thank you, Lori 2024. I love doing it. So welcome back. We are so excited. I have ended up talking about castor oil to probably 5 different people in the last week. And I just said, I have to do it. It's time. It is time to talk about castor oil. So every week I am amazed as I have finally learned how to watch my listener base and followers, in addition to the amazing emails that I receive from some are from concerned parents. Others are from people in the trenches right now with Crohn's, and others are even managing their Crohn's and have great suggestions. And it does my heart so good to know that there are growing number of people on the other side of this mic. It's crazy that people want to listen to me, but just to impart the humor in this podcast, because humor is kind of the way I deal with things. But I was recovering from a surprise diagnosis of PTSD. If you haven't been listening from the beginning, I did an episode on this. I think it was like the second one, because I think it's so important. But it was roughly 4 years after I did have traumatic experience with surgery and sepsis. And I started writing my story, and I love to write. And I thought that was what God wanted me to do, to tell my story. I had to write it. And one day I had to close my laptop. I was highly emotional, and I wasn't doing well. And I went through EMDR therapy. You can hear all about that in that episode. It was amazing. It was life-changing, life-giving. But it took me a while. Even after I finished EMDR, I thought maybe I'm not supposed to be writing about my history. Maybe I'm not supposed to be doing this. But at about 2-year mark, I realized, okay, maybe I can do this. But in those 2 years, I became very intentional about eliminating commitments from my life, learning to say no, letting other people step up to the plate. I have 3 kids, so it was time to let the younger moms be the room mom and the team mom and all the things. I learned to let go of regular commitments that were I didn't think that they were a good time exchange for me, even if they were good commitments. Not like they were bad, but they just weren't serving my time well. And then one day I felt it. It was just, I remember this day like it was yesterday. It was pouring down rain. I was sitting in my car in the McDonald's parking lot. Yes, because I fail every single day when I do the drive-thru to get my Coke. But I felt the need to push the button to go live on Facebook and announce to the world for accountability that I was ready to say yes. After a year of learning to say no, if the yeses were hard or uncomfortable, it's still a yes if it serves God's purpose for my life and my story. And within a couple of weeks, I was asked out of the blue to write a chapter in a devotional book, which was right up my alley. I wanted to share my faith and healing, and they asked me to write about my body and healing. And those publishers told me I needed to start a podcast. And in my head, I was checking off all the things they told me to do. And when it got to the podcast point, I was like, okay, I'm going to do everything except that one. No way. And as God only does, that week, obviously, someone in Facebook world or whatever was listening to me, and I stumbled upon a podcast, because I do love listening to podcasts, about how to podcast. And if you do podcasting, you can get off social media. And I was completely sold, because I love to share my story and I love to tell people great things, but I am not a huge fan of social media and I'm not a scroller. So clearly, here I am, and it hooked me. And I took an intensive and amazing podcast course that I never intended to take. I was going to take the little introduction course for the week and then move on from there. But it's amazing. Everybody says you start a podcast and you just start talking and that's all you do. And I will admit that there's way more to it. And I'll even link it up in the comments, my podcast course, because it was amazing. It prepared me for every detail that I needed to know, and my learning curve was steep. So with my nerves through the roof, I put out my first podcast and then the next. And then I realized that this was how God wanted me to tell my story. It wasn't a book that gets forgotten on a shelf or on social media that left me frozen and in reality disappears. I have fallen in love with podcasting because I get to share my faith, my healing, my journey, what I learned through my chronic illness, and I get to use my background as a pharmaceutical rep and education and my occupational therapist experience and 25 years of having Crohn's disease myself to tie a bow on my very messy life and help educate and encourage others. Every day I do this. I can't believe that I am here, the last place I thought I would be, and loving every minute, especially those humbling emails and reviews. Thank you. Thank you for everybody who listens and supports me. So for 90% of my years of struggling through Crohn's disease, I was entirely focused on the medical model approach to healing that did not heal me. I only tried natural remedies one day out of desperation and was completely shocked when they helped. I am still a work in progress, as I have said all the time. That's why it's called Becoming Natural. So if you haven't followed me to this point, I am still learning, and I am amazed at the things that I continue to learn and things that I really wish I knew when I was in such excruciating pain. But I have yet to find a rabbit hole that I didn't love. So here we are with castor oil, and I am so excited. I stumbled upon castor oil only when I was preparing for a parasite detox. My family frequently teases me or rolls their eyes at my now homeopathic approach to pretty much everything. However, when I think of how much anesthesia I have had, over 13 abdominal surgeries and colonoscopies and scopes and loads of pain meds and barium and the heavy meds I took over the years, I've had so much stuff in my body. I am always looking to give a new detox program to my body. So I am a willing detox girl. My perspective is that it really can't hurt me. So I have detoxed quite a bit, and I know it's working because I'm down to practically zero symptoms when I do one. When we all know the Candida episode that I talked about was what we called my exorcism, because it was so horrific. A handful of friends asked me if I want to join them on this parasite detox, and of course I was in. So for the record, we all have parasites. We get them from undercooked meat, water we drink, from our pets, unwashed vegetables. Don't think you're in the clear. A good parasite cleanse is good for everyone. But the first step of this cleanse or detox was to get a castor oil pack and apply it over the liver, while also taking several capsules of castor oil a day. The idea was to detox and purify what could be purged from the system before the real detox began. And I had never used castor oil, let alone know that it had any sort of therapeutic use. I had to investigate what castor oil to buy and what a liver pack even was. I didn't even know what that meant. I ordered the castor oil liver pack and used it as indicated. And, I didn't notice anything huge, but I knew that I was going in the right direction. The castor oil pack is basically a soft flannel piece of material we'll talk about later, but it absorbs the castor oil and presses it into your skin with a safe plastic on it. You want to make sure that you get a pack, because that plastic, you don't want the plastic to leach into your oil and then leach into your body. So I put about a tablespoon of castor oil on the pack and placed it over my liver, tied it on, slept in it overnight. I think you only have to do it for 2 to 3 hours, and I braced for the worst. The capsules were optional, and I'm going to admit that I did not take the capsules, as I require a bit of research before I ingest anything, given that I have GI issues. And while I was comfortable with the wrap on my abdomen, I passed on the capsules. So I went down a rabbit hole of healing and understanding that in its most basic purpose, castor oil cleans out cells. A book about castor oil that I found that was highly recommended, and I am so glad that it was because I absolutely love it. It's called The Oil That Heals, A Physician's Successes with Castor Oil Treatments. And it is about a doctor, Dr. Edward Casey, who was a physician in the early 1900s. So this book was actually created out of his own transcriptions using castor oil to treat his patients over many years. I couldn't put it down. I'm still not quite done with it, but I almost am. And as I read through the book, I came to a quote that I'll share here that echoes that of what I learned about essential oils as well. Essential oils we talked about, I think it was episode 5. Every organ, every cell, every atom has its own type of consciousness. Every part of God's world, down to its molecular and atomic structure, is aware of its own individual job. I love that quote so much. And I'm not the one that leans into the woo-woo, but certainly into my faith and belief that God created the earth and everything on it for a purpose. So don't let consciousness scare you there. I took it to mean that just like essential oils are organic in the way that they're made of carbon by God, they are intelligent and alive. They know what needs to be done to help the body. If something is inorganic, it does not have carbon, therefore it's not alive, therefore it's not intelligent. So the point that every organ, cell, and atom has its own God-given duty to our body makes perfect sense. We have certain cells that you find in our body that do certain things. It's amazing. We don't have to tell our bodies to replicate a healthy cell or to heal our open wound. Our bodies are smart and brilliant. In fact, they know what to do and they know when to do it because we are fearfully and wonderfully made. Psalm 139:14 says, I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful. I know that full well. If our bodies are given the chance to heal, they will heal. But today we have so many inorganic toxins and products on, in, and around our body that we are putting our bodies not in an ideal position to heal what needs to be healed successfully because it's fighting so many other foreign entities. So this led to the understanding that if castor oil was taken to pre-cleanse for a detox, even many times taken to evacuate the bowels throughout history as it's used as a laxative, it makes sense that it would be cleansing each atom, each cell, thus the entire organ, like the liver, to help detoxify it. So it's a miraculous detoxifier. Our poor livers, they need a break too, and they need a flush. So by cleansing these hardworking cells of our body and purging impurities down to the atomic level, it makes sense you would only feel better if they were functioning at their peak level. And certainly, after each atom has been thoroughly cleaned, the knowledge of a precise medical diagnosis is not necessary. So I kind of went down this side note here, but we talk about, we go from doctor to doctor to doctor trying to find a diagnosis. And in the medical world, everything has a code. It's called an ICD-10 diagnostic code. It's used by the WHO as a healthcare classification system to classify every single disease, problem, issue that you come into the hospital with, down to if it's your right or your left leg. It's really very detailed. So we don't have to have that to treat ourselves, is my point. It sure helps the insurance company, and it makes sense that if an atom or a cell is not properly performing, cleansing them would be a great place to start, but we don't have to know exactly what's going on in our bodies in order to start healing them. So by using castor oil, a natural organic oil pressed from castor beans, known to cleanse the cells of the body, is smart because it's God-made. It knows what to do, and it gets to work doing it. And the things that I am discovering now are not new. They are healing miracles, but there are things that I am learning are absolutely old school, pre-pharmaceutical industry, pre-insurance days, thousands of years of historical evidence of successful use. In fact, they are some of the oldest forms of treatment for our bodies. But why aren't doctors trained to use them? Why aren't we told to look at foods that could reduce our inflammation naturally? I could go on in so many directions, and I probably will in the future. But for today's introduction, using castor oil will keep it high level. Dr. Bill, as he is referred to in this book, quotes, offers a basic education about the healing process itself, a process that is misunderstood by those who believe that it is the doctor or the drug or both that heals us. Not so, says the author. Based on his long experience as a family physician, healing is a natural God-given function of the body in collaboration with the mind and the spirit. Disease or a failure to heal signals a dysfunction in one or all of our systems. Nature was given to us by God for a purpose, for a use, once we determine what that is. And it closes that says, castor oil will leave the body in better condition than it was found. I love that. Castor oil has been credited with preventing abdominal surgery, dissolving gallstones, eliminating warts, decreasing inflammation anywhere in the body, thereby reducing your pain. detoxing the thyroid and the liver, clearing up skin, making your hair grow, eliminating fatty tumors, and so much more. It does not take a doctor to know what is going on inside of our body. The existence of a higher power, of a God, is not acknowledged in medical schools. Experts are not always right, as we have been conditioned to assume, and we are also learning that doctors today are experts in pharmaceuticals. They are chemists. They dig to find symptoms. But when it comes to nutrition or plant-based, God-made medication, it's not necessarily their strong suit unless they choose to investigate it on the side. I used to joke when I was a pharmaceutical rep because some doctors I called on, I had some doozies, but a lot of pharmaceutical reps are hired not based on medical experience like I had, but on their sales experience, their communication skills, ability to network and build relationships with doctors. So I was one of the few in my training class that actually understood physiology of the body already and how my drug worked in the body. And most doctors I called on were not expecting me to challenge their thinking or present alternative beliefs. And I say that to say that I quickly learned as a rookie OT and as a pharmaceutical rep that just because a doctor has a good bedside manner does not mean that he's a good doctor. And just because a doctor is a total jerk does not mean that he isn't the doctor that I want saving my life. Doctors get their degrees whether they made straight A's or straight C's. And you will never know which one is which or how that even translates to their skills. So every one of us has our own intuition and a feeling that something is awry with our body that we can detect, and perhaps a doctor doesn't know the questions to ask. But we often push through those feelings and we fight back, not wanting to go to the doctor, not wanting to take the time or spend the money, not wanting to take the medication. We don't listen to our bodies and we don't address the warning signs until we are desperate. Warning signs are headaches, itches, upset stomach, all the things, so many things. If it's not something that we can't muscle through, we just push on. I mean, I'm the queen. I know I push through so many things, but we aren't trained to listen to our bodies at all. I will always shout it out that if I'm in a car accident and my bones are broken, if I'm spurting blood, if I have internal injuries, I want to go straight to the emergency room and I want to be put back together again. Western medicine has produced amazing discoveries in saving lives. My concern is that for long-term chronic illness, we do not have the answers, or Western medicine thinks we have the answers until all of a sudden they change. We're truly practicing medicine when we're creating new drugs and trying new drugs, and they're not, they haven't been studied long-term, and then all of a sudden they pull them off the market. It's a constant push and shove of medications because the medical model looks at the symptom and it chooses a drug to treat that symptom. I have come to believe that for chronic illnesses, autoimmune diseases, long-term degenerative disorders, even neurodegenerative disorders, we need to focus first on what our deficiencies are, not our symptoms. What vitamins do we lack? What minerals do we need? Our soil is already overworked, and even our fresh food is not providing the value to our body we need. So it doesn't include, and that doesn't even include the addition of fertilizers and pesticides and all those things that are still attached to those fresh vegetables that are going in our bodies when we eat them. So let's start by assessing the deficiencies of what our body naturally needs. When we can determine those, then we look at our diet and the inflammatory and anti-inflammatory foods that we discussed over the past 2 episodes, and then we adjust our diet accordingly. All of that's hard. It's not simple because we are creatures of habit. But then we determine where supplementation due to deficiencies, not medicine, is needed. And like me, our autoimmune diseases were building for many years for many of us. We didn't go to the doctor until we were sick enough. And in that time, our deficiencies and inflammatory cycles only continued to grow and get worse. And by the time I saw my doctor, it was not a quick fix or a pop-a-pill recovery. It was an emergency surgery in the ER because I couldn't even keep water down. It's adjusting our lifestyle, taking control of our health by diet first, like we discussed in our last 2 episodes. I wish I had known that before my first surgery. Assessing potential deficiencies and supplementing appropriately. Getting good sleep. We do not give it enough credit to know that sleep is actually wonderful medication. That's when our body recovers. That's when we grow. That's when we heal. And we have yet to dive into the big whammy of stress. Oh, the pathways of stress or disease that stress it creates. The brain-gut connection is real. And even I know that because when I get stressed, the first thing to nag at me is my gut. Emotions play an enormous role in our health that we have never given credit to, or like me, thought it was a bunch of hooey for far too long. So many of my dear friends are doctors. Every one of them will tell me that they were not given much, if any, instruction about diet in medical school, nutrition, or even the effect of emotions on the body. And if you remember my sacred trip to the Mayo Clinic, where I was certain I would leave with all of the answers and be healed, that GI doctor told me that diet and what you ate was absolute hogwash. Food had nothing to do with the outcome of my illness. I still can't fathom a doctor being so narrow-minded not to at least consider what we put in our body can affect us. And this was not that long ago. We all know stress kills. So why wouldn't every negative emotion play a role in the breakdown of our health? We can be sick in body and in mind or spirit. And in reverse, they say people who laugh live longer. Good emotions can heal our bodies as well. Okay, so I kind of got off on a tangent there. I get so excited. But Dr. Bill, these are his transcriptions in the book, gives many case studies of patients that he recommended using castor oil packs for treatment. In many cases, patients were undiagnosed. They didn't have that ICD-10 code back then and had been struggling for years. And one that I actually really liked was that this woman was 72 years old, and she did not have a diagnosis. She'd gone to many doctors. She had had a hysterectomy 23 years prior. And ever since that surgery, she had battled constant gaseous distension, constipation, abdominal miseries, it says, edema, which is inflammation and swelling, and the ankles, and episodes where she felt that her gut was twisted, which probably was. She tried a castor oil liver pack and reported 2 weeks later that the first night the twisted feeling stopped, and ultimately all of her symptoms she experienced over 23 years disappeared with just a little bit of time of using castor oil packs. She had no diagnosis. No doctor could tell her what was wrong. No obvious finding in studies, but she knew she had that intuition. She was out of sync. Something was wrong. These days, we go from doctor to doctor to doctor and specialist to specialist, waiting for a diagnosis before we begin treatment. But what if, knowing that all disease begins with inflammation, y'all, we remember that, we simply begin with treating inflammation through adding or eliminating foods and adding anti-inflammatory supplements like castor oil. Imagine how healthy our bodies could be without all of those meds. I find it so interesting to know that while we have no idea what mechanisms took part in her healing after 23 years of pain, nor will we ever know what her root problem really was. But her consistent use of merely a castor oil pack on her liver resolved 23 years of discomfort. I just think it's easy, it's God's medicine, it's inexpensive, and of course, it's worked for thousands of years. Yet pharmaceuticals have been around for 50 years, and they are standard of care. What is wrong with that picture? So what is castor oil? Castor oil is a thick vegetable oil made from the seeds of the Ricinus, I'm going to spell that for you, Ricinus communis plant. The seeds are castor beans. It's been used for thousands of years, and not just because it's natural. It works in some really fascinating ways inside and outside the body. A few health benefits that castor oil is credited with it contains a fatty acid called ricinoleic acid, and this is the star ingredient. It has been shown to reduce substances in the body that trigger inflammation, similar to how over-the-counter pain medicines lower our inflammation, but more gently. And this is the cool part. 85 to 90% of castor oil is ricinoleic acid. That's incredibly high. Most oils actually have a blend of fatty acids, but castor oil is mostly just this one fatty acid. Very few natural oils have a single compound that does so much, and that's why castor oil is such a staple in traditional and holistic medicine. Ricinoleic acid is gentle, it's powerful, and it works with your body instead of overriding your body. So ricinoleic acid is castor oil's secret weapon. So how do we use it? We apply castor oil on inflamed joints like our knees or our wrists. We can use it on sore muscles. We can put it on wounds. We can put it on our skin. We can use castor oil packs, which is my favorite. It's basically cloth soaked in castor oil placed on the skin. We'll get into that more in a minute, but they're often used on the abdomen to soothe inflammatory gut conditions like IBS or Crohn's. And holy Hannah, how I wish I knew about that when I was so sick. But in simple words, it's like putting a calm down lotion directly where your body is yelling from inflammation. And I have a great story, but I was relatively new to castor oil, and my sister called me because she had long-term issues with her foot. 9 months or a year. She even had surgery. But then when she was recovering from surgery for all the time that she had been hobbling, she caused some extra problems on that other foot, like we all would. And even after surgery, she was still battling pain and she was so frustrated. I told her to use castor oil as I had just jumped on the whole castor oil bandwagon, and she told me that she'd already been doing it. She'd been rubbing her foot for a week and there was no change. But I told her, I said, I really believe that there's value to these castor oil packs. And I read that pressing of the oil onto the skin from the cloth had added benefits. So she ordered a wrap specifically for her foot. And what that did was it kept the castor oil in place overnight and allowed for a longer application. It only took a few days for her to notice a difference. And within about a week, the pain that she had battled for months was completely gone. It's incredible. Number 2, it boosts lymphatic drainage and detox. So why does it do that? Your lymphatic system is like your body's garbage truck. It hauls away waste, toxins, dead cells. When it gets clogged or sluggish, you feel bloated, heavy, and tired. We talked about this with Aubrey when we were talking about the lymphatic system, but research tells us that castor oil, especially when used as a warm compress or pack, can stimulate lymphatic flow, helping the body detox naturally. Just simply apply castor oil over your liver, your abdomen, or your lymph nodes, like your underarms, your neck, your groin area. And you can use a heating pad, which I've never done. I'm going to do that next time for about 30 to 60 minutes because that heat will activate for deeper absorption. The whole idea is it gives your body's cleaning system a jump start, just like for detoxes, so it can basically take out the trash faster. But I want to tell you my experience. Much of my drive to get healthy revolves around the fact that the only medicine I was taking was a thyroid pill. And I was healthy as related to Crohn's at this point, and I was trying to get off that thyroid pill with my doctor's blessing, thinking, oh, my Crohn's is, gone. I don't need this anymore. And my doctor blessed it. She's like, if you can do it, go for it. But I found myself at 3 p.m. every day. I was holding my eyes open with toothpicks to just make it through the day. So I got back on that darn thyroid pill, but it really started to pique my interest. And as I talk to people, I know a lot of women I knew were taking thyroid medication. Why? And why are we all on thyroid meds? So I started thinking about it, and based on using the app that we've talked about, the little that you can see what the ingredients are in your products, I realized that almost every single thing that I was using on my body was an endocrine blocker. Well, if I could stop blocking my hormones and my thyroid, maybe I can help my thyroid. So I focused on eliminating endocrine blockers. But I hadn't done the thyroid pack yet using the castor oil. So true to form, I was all excited. I ordered the thyroid pack and I put it on my neck with my castor oil. And we'll talk about what you need in a castor oil in a minute. But I woke up the next morning and I kid you not, I feel like I had been run over by a truck. I don't feel bad very often and I was miserable. I canceled my meeting, I canceled my tennis match, and I rolled back over and went to bed. I don't know when the last time was that I had done that. I was fully prepared that when I woke up that I was going to be, have the flu, sick as a dog. I didn't even crack an eye open until noon, which is so unlike me. But when I woke up at noon, not only was I not sick, I felt amazing. And I really, honestly didn't really think anything about it. Like I hadn't put all that together. And a few days later, I was telling a fellow homeopathic friend about castor oil and how much I like it. And it hit me. And I was thinking, oh my gosh, I bet when I woke up miserable, that pack had detoxed all the crud in my thyroid from years of taking medicine. And it was still kind of floating around in my body, detoxing when I woke up. And by the time I got up at noon, it had worked itself out. And I felt amazing. So it was incredible. And that same tuition that we have, I am certain that that's what happened in hindsight because I felt amazing and I was not sick. And I will tell you, when I woke up that morning, I was absolutely miserable. Number 3, it's a natural laxative. It relieves constipation. And the reason it works is when we take it internally, and red flag here, you have to take a very small amount and it has to be a correct amount. But castor oil stimulates the intestines. And so that ricinoleic acid binds to the receptors in the intestines that cause the muscles to contract, which helps the stool to move through your body. You can put it in a smoothie or even make pills. I read quite a few people who make the pills out of vegetable pills and they freeze them before they use them. But effects should happen and take place within 2 to 6 hours. But be very wary because overuse can cause cramping or dehydration, so it should only be used occasionally. It acts like a gentle push to get your bowels moving when they're stuck. So next time you need to grab for a stool softener or a chemically laden powder that everybody uses, I hate it because they give it to kids all the time, to stir into your drink, stop. try just a tiny bit of castor oil first. It is a natural solution that is proven, and it has no nasty ingredients. Number 4, it promotes hair growth and skin healing. Everyone is always looking for something to help their hair grow, right? Because ricinoleic acid boosts circulation to the area where it's applied, it will promote hair growth and skin healing. Plus, castor oil is antimicrobial, which means that it kills bacteria and fungi and is deeply moisturizing. So just massage it into the scalp to stimulate your hair growth. I usually do it at night, and then I put like a just a towel around my head and sleep in it because it's really sexy. You don't want to get all that oil on your pillowcase, or you can just wear it around for an hour or so and then wash it out. But you can also apply it to your eyebrows or your eyelashes. A lot of people I know use it. You can get an empty mascara holder and fill it with castor oil on Amazon, super cheap. I'll link it up for you, and put it on your eyelashes. And it works. It actually makes your eyelashes grow. And you can use it on cracked heels or even scars to support healing of that skin. It's like feeding thirsty skin and hair when they need to thrive. Of course, in my determination to stop with the endocrine blockers, I decided I was only going to wash my face with castor oil. The first night, amazing. My skin was so smooth and it was just perfection. I was so impressed. And then after a few days, I noticed my skin was getting dry. And I even read some reviews that said it caused their skin to be dry. But really, what actually happened, what I discovered, was that I was using it too frequently for my skin because it was causing the cells to turn over. And it was just leaving a layer that simply needed to be exfoliated. So once I figured that part out, I just cut back on using it. I was using it morning and night to wash my face, and I just use it once or twice a week, if that. And I have no need to exfoliate. It has kept my skin clear and nice and soft, and I think it even reduced my pore size. That's just my opinion. But I also heard a friend say that castor oil was helping her husband with a lipoma. A lipoma is just like a little fatty tumor, benign. And my sweet 16-year-old dog has lipomas all over her, which this is becoming very common in dogs. That's a whole nother rabbit hole. But anyway, I knew that I couldn't put it on her topically, but she had a big one that was growing really, really fast on kind of like on the inside of her elbow. And I think it was kind of bothering her. So despite my best efforts, I tried to inject her lipoma with a needle. That fails. But I decided just to put it over her food, and I give her the tiniest amount. And if it was measured, I would say 1/8 of a teaspoon. I mean, I just barely put anything on there. And 2 things I noticed immediately. This 16-year-old girl was so happy. She would jump to the point that all 4s were off the ground when she got excited. And that may have been her 5 years ago, but this was not normal at all for her at 16. And I just decided that anti-inflammatory property was just making her joints feel better. She felt good. And the other big one was one of those lipomas, the one on her elbow. I did not measure it, but I noticed that while it's not gone, it's definitely no longer growing, and I do think that it's actually reduced in size. I wish I had measured it to prove that. But unfortunately, I am the only crazy in the house who thinks giving her castor oil is beneficial. So she does not always get the castor oil when she eats, but for the times that I feed her, she gets her castor oil, and I really do think it's helping her, and it has definitely stopped the progress of the growth of that lipoma. It's nowhere close to growing as fast as it was. So number 5, it supports wound healing, and much the same as I said about washing my face with it. Studies show that castor oil keeps the wound moist, which speeds the healing, and its antimicrobial properties help prevent infections. So it also reduces the dryness and keeps the wound from cracking open. So you just apply it topically. Basically, it's a natural Band-Aid while your body repairs the body. Very, very important to notice. Do not use castor oil if you're pregnant. It is it stimulates the uterine contractions, much like it stimulates your bowel contractions to push the bowel through. It's actually used to induce pregnancy if somebody needs to go into labor. So do not use castor oil if you are pregnant. And if you're not pregnant and you do choose to use it in a very small dose. And I would say start small and increase if needed, but always go small on that side. More is not better at all. So castor oil isn't just an old wives' tale. It's real. It's scientifically supported in ways that it can help calm down the body. It can clean it up, and it can heal it faster. And when used correctly, it is a simple, powerful addition to natural health routines. If you want to use a castor oil wrap, let's talk about that now. I will link the wraps in the show notes, but I started buying one at a time just because I started with the liver wrap and then I wanted the thyroid wrap. But ultimately, I was like, that was adding up fast if I wanted to get all of them. So I bought a set that has all the body parts. So ironically, we have needed them. I have a child that tore his ACL. We wrapped it around his knee, and he won't give it credit, but his inflammation has gone down to almost nothing compared to what it was while we wait for surgery. We've used it on feet, used it on thyroid and liver, and it was just cheaper to buy the set. So I will say using castor oil packs also post breast surgery is very common now. I love it. I love hearing doctors say this, but it speeds the healing and helps with the scars, and it reduces the inflammation, which is taking away a lot of the pain. So first of all, what you do is you pour, depending upon what body part you're using, but on the liver pack, say I poured about a tablespoon of castor oil, maybe a little more, and I just kind of let it, I moved the pack and let it kind of roll around in there. And be sure castor oil is from an amber glass bottle. We'll go through a check mark here in a minute about what you need in your castor oil, but you basically wrap it around your body. And the castor oil packs have this special plastic on it because you do not want the plastic leaching into your body. So that's why you have to get these special castor oil wraps. Like some people will say, oh, you just wrap saran wrap. No, because the oil will break down the plastic and you don't want to absorb that plastic. So that's why it seems silly when you have to buy these wraps, but it's definitely worth the cost for your health, because then it would defeat the entire purpose of having a castor oil wrap. And they say to wear them 1 to 2 hours, but I typically sleep in them. You can't wear it for too long. So I just put it on before I go to bed and sleep in them. And you put it directly on the area that you want to target. So over your liver is the right side of your belly, right under your ribs. Your lower abdomen, if it's for your cycle pain, or if you have gut inflammation, achy joints, whichever joint you want to target. But castor oil needs direct skin contact to start calming that inflammation and boosting the lymphatic flow while supporting your organ health. So if you want, apply that gentle heat for 30 minutes to an hour, read a book, take a nap, whatever. I've never done the heat, but I plan on doing that because it says, the book said that if you do that, it kind of opens up the pores, it increases the circulation, and it actually helps the ricinoleic acid in the castor oil sink deeper into your tissues so it can work even better. Awesome, right? So castor oils are powerful. We're going to sum it up because it encourages lymph flow, it reduces local inflammation, it improves blood circulation, and it gently supports detox without medication. That's why we use the packs. Important tips about the packs is that consistency matters. So if you're going to use them and you're targeting a specific issue, you want to try to use them 3 to 4 times per week for best results. You want to stay hydrated as well because you're flushing toxins. Keep that in mind. You may not know it, but you are. So you need to stay hydrated to keep the flushing going on and doing it healthily. And it is not for open wounds. And like I said, not during pregnancy. So I initially discovered the use of castor oil as I started out while prepping for a parasite cleanse. So how does castor oil help with parasites? That's probably another podcast, but castor oil is used like a supplement to a parasite cleanse. It's not per se a parasite killer, but parasites like slow, constipated guts. So by moving the bowels more quickly through the intestines, it doesn't allow them to stick around and can also loosen them from the intestinal wall by removing their biofilms. Biofilms are basically these protective layers that help hide the parasites in our gut. It's gross. We can discuss all this in the future. But not all castor oils are created equal, as everything we always talk about. I feel like I need to do a whole episode on how to make sure your products are safe and organic and clean. But many brands will cut corners, or they'll use chemicals that cancel out the natural healing benefits that you're looking for. So here is a very simple checklist to make sure that you're getting a high quality castor oil. Number 1, you want it to be cold pressed. Cold pressed means the oil was extracted without using heat or high heat or chemical solvents. Heat and chemicals destroy the healing compounds like the ricinoleic acid, and then you don't get any benefit. So if it doesn't say cold pressed, skip it. Make sure that it is hexane free. Hexane is a chemical solvent that's used to extract oil faster and cheaper. So even trace amounts of hexane left behind can be toxic and harsh on the body. Always, always look for hexane free. Choose organic if possible. Castor oil plants can absorb pesticides very, very easily. Organic certification ensures the plants weren't sprayed with harmful chemicals. And there's that little USDA organic sign. That's what I always look for. Pick an oil that is stored in a dark glass, amber glass bottle. Light and heat can make castor oil go bad faster. So that dark amber or blue glass bottle will protect the oil from UV damage, and make sure that it is not plastic, because those plastic bottles will leach into the oil and again, defeat the entire purpose. Check for minimal ingredients. Only one ingredient should be listed, and that is Ricinus communis. That is castor oil. There's no need for fragrances, preservatives, or fillers at all. The label should basically say one word. Well, I guess it's two: castor oil. And reputation matters. So stick with brands that specialize in natural health or organic body products, not just cheap general brands. So reading reviews helps as well, but that's just kind of a general way to find a good castor oil. I'll link up some of my favorites that I've used in the show notes. So if you're going to take it internally, be extra careful and make sure that it says it's food grade. Some brands will say external use only. So in a nutshell, the best castor oil is cold pressed, hexane-free, organic, in a dark glass bottle with pure, no additives. Like I said before, castor oil has remarkable benefits. I put them up there with even my favorite CBD products for a variety of uses and power of reducing inflammation. I know that we will be revisiting castor oil soon because there are many things we can still address, like different kinds of castor oil. There's a kind called Jamaican black castor oil, which actually they roast the beans before they press them, which is kind of cool, and that's used for different purposes. Plus parasites, of course, if we want to dive into that later. I know you might be thinking you would rather poke needles in your eyeballs than to read a book about castor oil, but I will tell you that what I think really brings the book alive is the history and the remarkable stories of healings that have happened for so long, and that we have gotten away from all of these ancient practices that are so healthy for us. These days, we demand this double-blind placebo study for anything that we touch. And there is value, of course, to scientific studies. Remember, I am a lab rat. I spent 90% of my college in the science lab. But also important to remember that, as unfortunate as it is, who performs the study and who stands to benefit from the study matters. Studies are altered. Outliers are often ignored if it stands to benefit the study in one direction or the other. And I hate being the cynic, but given not only my health history and willingness for years to do the surgeries and take the drugs, also promoting drugs and knowing many of the studies that we were given, plus the current world has opened our eyes to a growing number of bad actors, or perhaps revealing that there have always been bad actors. When I promoted a study to a physician as a pharmaceutical rep, the smart doctors, the intuitive thinkers would always say, "Penny, I love your drug," of course, because I had a good drug. But we all know there are just as many studies that support the use of the entire class of drugs. I had 4 competitors, and it's true. We were all the same class of drugs. There was just like this tiny change in the molecule, and they weren't wrong. So studies can be manipulated is my point. So everything doesn't have to have a study. If you're just like hardcore have to have a study, it's not true, because they're manipulated. If everything was completely true and verifiable, that would be one thing. But I hope you enjoyed today's episode. This one is one that I've been looking forward to for a very long time. I could talk forever, obviously, about it, and I hope to be able to circle back in the future with more great history and information about the healing and anti-inflammatory benefits of castor oil. I hope that you've been listening from the very beginning of this podcast, my whole podcast. You'll remember that the biggest broad overview of health is that all disease begins with inflammation. And as we keep plugging away at new ways to become natural, isn't it amazing all the natural things the Lord has provided for us that are anti-inflammatory? He knew that we would be in this pickle. And yet every day I feel like I am a 3-year-old at Christmas time discovering yet another amazing gift from nature, or a lesson learned about ancient ways, ancient techniques, and plants that were created to keep our bodies healthy and safe. Thank you so much. If you have enjoyed this episode, if you know a friend that might need to hear it, please feel free to share it with someone who is on their own healing journey. Just tap the share icon and spread the natural health love with anybody that you love. I hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll catch you next week. Thank you so much for tuning in today. If you've enjoyed today's episode, hit that follow button, leave a 5-star review if you're so willing, and help spread the message of Becoming Natural by sharing it with a friend. Check out the resources in the show notes and join the email list to stay on top of all the latest and greatest happenings at Becoming Natural as we roll out exciting new things while we grow. Until next time, take those baby steps to a more natural life, and always give yourself grace. Progress, not perfection, is the goal. See you next week.